Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome at last to my spoiler-filled review of Avengers Endgame. If you're looking for a non-spoiler, I did do a non-spoiler-filled reaction right after I saw the film in my car, the Avengers Endgame reaction. I'll place a link in the top right-hand corner there, and I avoided spoilers on that one. This time around, though, I wanted to give a proper review and actually talk about spoilers, because it's so hard to talk about the movie without spoiling it with any specificity or in any kind of depth. So I wanted to point out things. I do still agree with what I said in that in the reaction, but I've had a lot more time to process the things now, and I can speak with more specificity, like I said, and I can come down a little more solidly on the end result, I think. And as I said in the reaction, the movie has some really great epic stuff in it. And at the same time, it's got a lot of tragic flaws of storytelling in it. And I said that most people are going to fall on either side of that. They're going to latch on to the cool stuff, or they're going to latch on to the problems. They're going to try and paint the whole movie like that. And that's a mistake. At the same time, though, you do have to, at some point, give it, your grade, your summation, of it, or whatever. And as I said in that reaction video, which I can even say more definitively now after I've really thought of it and thinking out, it's a real tragic misstep. It's not anything at all like what it's supposed to be for this place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, for this position, this wonderful end cap that we were promised and we were supposed to have. But let's talk about the good stuff first, because there is good stuff in it. Iron Man, of course, has been the linchpin of the MCU. Captain America is my favorite, and I think he's the heart and absolutely all of that. But in terms of the cinematic universe, it started with Iron Man. And, so you look at a structure of a story, of a narrative, you have to, in the end, you have to go back to things you struck in the beginning to really process things properly. And we did that. I liked Iron Man's arc. Having him sacrifice himself, on the one hand, you don't like losing the character, but on the other hand, this is true to the arc he's been on the whole time, because his story arc has been trying to prove that he could be a hero. He could be more than just the selfish rich boy. He could actually be a hero. And you saw that furthered in Avengers, for example, when Captain America is telling him, I know guys who, you're not the hero. You're not the one willing to lay down on the wire and lay down your life for other people. Now, of course, at the end of the Avengers, Tony Stark has a great little moment in that arc where he does sacrifice himself. As far as he knows, he's going to go, die with that bomb. He doesn't know that he's going to fall back through the hole of the space portal there. So you see that, you see that. And then you see in Iron Man 3, for example, he's dealing with the PTSD of that, realizing I'm just, as he says, I'm just a man in a can. I'm dealing with gods and super soldiers and all these kind of people who are, super enhanced, and I'm just a genius in a metal suit. And he's got to deal with that and find his worth, in that movie outside of the Iron Man suit, which is wonderful. Then in Age of Ultron, we see him really freaking out about the dangers out there, still feeling inadequate in order to combat them, just as who he is, wanting that suit of armor around the world and all of that. And at the end of this movie, it's him. It's wonderful that it's actually him that deals the real solid final death blow to Thanos at the end. Stealing the Infinity Stones, of course, because he's got the nanotech armor. They would listen to him. They can easily transfer over to his glove when he's holding glove there at the end. That was perfect. And then when Thanos tries to do the "I'm inevitable" line again and realizes he doesn't have the stones, and then Iron Man says, "I'm Iron Man." That's perfect, because that's the wonderful iconic line that he ended the first film on. Really beautiful arc for Tony Stark. I love the idea of him having the daughter now. He's had 5 years, there with them. And the funeral, when the memorial service, when they push out the wreath on the lake there, and it's got that original holder that Piper had made for Pepper. I was going to say Piper. Pepper had made for him in the first movie to put in the trophy, for the first arc reactor he created, as a proof that Tony Stark has a heart. Again, this is all wrapped up. A perfect, beautiful story arc for Tony Stark. That was solid. I liked Nebula. We continue with her redemptive arc. That's good. My list here to make sure I'm not missing anything. I like even the fact that she has to kill her previous self. That's symbolic. You have to kill the person you were, in order to become the person that you want to be, in terms of your own self-growth and progression. And so that was symbolic. And I like that. I thought that was neat. Captain America, it's hard to imagine anything in the world cooler than him finally wielding Mjolnir. That was That was epic and perfect. And that was just, that was kick-ass. That was absolutely, I still reel from it just thinking about it. That was awesome. That was really great. That whole climactic battle, there were some points of it and parts of it that I'll talk about that wasn't quite happy with, but the whole battle in general, it was unexpected. You thought that they were really going to be able to fix the snap when they brought the stones back. You knew that the false nebula had come back, so you knew that there was going to be some, conflict to come, but you didn't expect at all the entirety of Thanos and the Chitauri to show up in like this big, intergalactic planetary war again, right there in New Jersey of all places. So, I mean, that was unexpected. In fact, when it first happened, I thought we got to fix this with time travel somehow. We got to go back or something, it didn't feel like it was going to work until that moment, that great moment when Cap is standing, up to Thanos. And I thought, he's going to sacrifice himself here or something. And you hear Sam's voice. You hear Sam Wilson say, "On your left." And that was a great throwback to Winter Soldier, of course, and Sam and his relationship, which is a solid and wonderful thing. And then not only does Sam come back, but everybody that the snap has returned. Doctor Strange has gathered them all, and they're all there now. And that's epic. That's freaking amazing. That was really great to see everybody that we'd known and loved and come forward. That was just wonderful to see them all up against Thanos, this big evil, who'd been the major big evil from the beginning, the big baddie behind them all, at least in terms of the search for the Infinity Stones or the Infinity Stones, in general, even with the first Avengers. So that was great. And it was the message that gives off, too. The idea that you never stop fighting. Even when it looks most hopeless, even when the bad guy is won, you never stop fighting. I love that message of the film. It was solid stuff. It was really good. It was great. Now let's talk about the many, many, many tragedies in this movie, and what's overall pushed it over the edge to where this isn't even a film worthy of its place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or as a film in general anymore. So let's talk about a few things. We said that Iron Man's story arc was so solid. What did they do to the other characters? Thor, this movie shit all over Thor. It disrespected the hell out of him. I'm not even a major Thor fan, just as somebody who primarily knows him from the movies, honestly. I mean, I've read some of the comics here and there, but I'm not a Thor aficionado by any means. But, I can see this movie just, we already had him go on sort of an arc of self-doubt and questioning with Thor Ragnarok. And even into Infinity War, wanting to go and grab the weapon and stuff like that. But now you've just got him utterly deconstructed and just a joke. And he's literally a joke in the film. He's played for laughs. And even through the end, I mean, he fights in the end, but he's not really all that formidable. I mean, they just really wanted to depower him, get him out of the way. Same thing with the Hulk. I like the idea of Professor Hulk as a moment in Banner's story arc, as a stage, but that can't be the end point. We were promised a wonderful story arc with the Hulk and his character progression. They said they were going to do that through Ragnarok, Infinity War, and now Endgame. And they set that up. In Ragnarok, of course, you've got the idea of these dual personas within him, and the Hulk can have his time, and he's progressed to about a 3 or 4 year old or whatever, being able to speak now and stuff like that. And then Infinity War continued that or furthered that dichotomy, because now you have them arguing, and why doesn't the Hulk want to take control anymore, and you had that, and they were setting something up to develop there. It was very clear. And they just dropped the ball with Infinity War. They just decided, we don't have the time, so we'll just kind of explain that really quickly with, okay, Professor Hulk's there now. Okay, everything's fine. No, you dropped the ball royally on his story arc and character progression. And he's not dead, of course, at the end. I mean, who knows what they could do, but they really wanted to weaken him. They wanted to tame him. They wanted to get him out of the way, just like Thor. They wanted to tame the big, strong, masculine forces, get them out of the way. We can't have them interfering. So that was a real blight on the film, the way they handled the Hulk. I didn't like that at all. Captain Marvel, I've already talked about. I did a whole, I cut out a snippet of my reaction video, which really summed up my problems with her. She did not belong in this movie at all. She was 100% shoehorned. I'll place a link to that little clip up there too. You can check it out if you want more further thoughts on that. The tone of the film, now I disagree with Fan Man at this point, because he didn't like Infinity War. He thought the tone in that was all over the place. I thought Infinity War was great as far as tone goes. I've talked about this before, how the Marvel Cinematic Universe is able to take different kinds of movies. They can take comedies, they can take really serious, dire, tragic movies. They can take spy thrillers. They can take a heist movie. They can take all these films and weave them pretty much seamlessly, I thought, into the same universe. And then when an Avengers movie happens or a Civil War happens or something like that, where the characters come together, for the most part, I thought they really weaved those tones well. It felt like a coherent story. It didn't feel like, one moment you had this and then the next moment you had that. And I even think Infinity War did that very well. I think for a movie that's so tragic and heavy hitting like that and is really going to gut you, I thought you needed those light moments of levity. I really did. I thought Infinity War did it incredibly well. Endgame, it's like they didn't even try anymore. It really is. It's like, it almost feels like an Endgame. By the time Endgame comes around, the writers, producers, directors, all of the MCU have been juggling. It's a juggling act. And every time they add a new ball, people are like, oh, this time it's going to fall. And they shock you. And they're like, nope, we got this. We know what we're doing. And that's great. That's great. Now, Endgame was one ball too many, it felt like. And they dropped it all. It starts out really hitting you in the gut again with the tragedy of Infinity War, which is good. Establish that again, establish those stakes. And then shortly thereafter, it becomes the worst kind of comedy. It becomes like almost like a Wedding Crashers type comedy or whatever, when they're going back in time and they are going to different moments in the past of the MCU that we've known and loved. And I felt like it was really kind of just disrespecting those moments too, just for the sake of a cheap laughs. Captain America doesn't feel like Captain America at all when he goes back in time. And, they kind of make fun of the line of I can do this all day. It's kind of like, it's almost like a meta or comedy or something. Iron Man says something about, oh, well, we stood here and posed long enough at the end of the Avengers moment in the tower. Well, that's dumb. That was a solid movie. That was an incredible film, a pillar, a classic. And this movie just really kind of took it apart just for cheap laughs, it felt like. And then Captain America talking about America's ass. Captain America would never say that. That's just stupid. That was really cheap laughs, really dumb, cheap, easy writing. Did not like that at all. And I felt like a lot of that was there. Now, I didn't dislike all of the time travel. I think it was really great seeing Tony Stark come in to have contact with his father again. You had to have that. That completed his story arc too, their conversation they had, which was really nice. But the tone, the way they approached the time travel was completely off. Not necessary at all. Didn't like that. Let's see, where am I off there? Also, I'll get to that in a second. There were so many unanswered questions in terms of story, juggling act of the Marvel Cinematic Universe too. I've talked about how we've got our individual stories in this universe, but you have to pay attention to the entirety of the story that's being told, because it is a shared cinematic universe. That's one long narrative. You have to think about that level of it. And for the most part, Kevin Feige and the Marvel Cinematic Universe has done a great job with that. I thought they really did well. They just decided to rush it at this point. They just decided they wanted to hurry up and get to this big end cap movie so they could close all this out, and now they can do all their social justice warrioring that they want to do. So there were so many unanswered questions, and I made a list of just some of them that I thought about. When they do go back to the Avengers time, at the time of the Avengers movie there, the Ancient One is there on Bleecker Street there in the Sanctum Sanctorum. If she was there, first of all, couldn't she have done a little bit more to help? Now, I know they guard against mystical powers and not, the worldly threats. Okay, maybe she can see that the Avengers are going to handle it. Okay-ish. But the other problem is that she sees the future to the point of knowing that Doctor Strange is going to be the best of them all and save them all. Now, if she knows where Dr. Stephen Strange is at that moment, off there performing surgery in the hospital, if she knows that he's going to be the one to come and replace her, then certain things in Doctor Strange the movie don't make sense anymore. Why would she reject him at first and have to be convinced to take him in? Why does it seem like it's a surprise when he's able to use the cloak of levitation, and she giving him the having him be the keeper of that sanctum seems like a very spur of the moment kind of thing in the moment of their threat that they're facing and stuff. So it just didn't. Doctor Strange doesn't make a lot of sense, and that's a real good example of poor storytelling in the sense that now you want to shoehorn this thing. You're in the future of your storyline, so now you want to do something different that's going to affect what you did over here, but you didn't really set it up over here because you didn't know you were going to do it. So you'd want to just do it over here and then just pretend that everything was okay over there, or just kind of find ways to, when the audience has to sort of do these mental gymnastics to make it work, you drop the ball as a storyteller there. So that was a problem. That was just the beginning, though. What about New Asgard? Thor's entire ship with the entire remaining survivors of Asgard there, that was blown to bits. Thor can survive out in space, okay. So if some other Asgards could, you're saying that enough Asgards to people a new country, a new Asgard, enough of them were just floating in space and then got magically rescued? That doesn't make sense. Korg and Meep, they can survive in space. So you could easily explain this stuff. You could tell a story of some Asgards that got away in an escape ship, or they were able to salvage what was left of one part of the ship and seal it off or whatever. I mean, you could explain that easily, but you've got to take the time to do it. You can't just skip over that. You can't just pretend that, well, we're good. We don't have to worry about that. No, you've set up these stories. You don't get to just drop them all because you want to hurry up and wrap up the whole chapter, the whole phase. That doesn't work. I've talked about Hulk dropping his character arc. Loki, when Loki escapes with the Tesseract in the past, when they go back in the past, I think, if I'm right, they might be setting this up, which isn't the problem in storytelling, if they actually do this. There was talk about a Loki Scarlet Witch series that was going to come to the Disney streaming service. I don't know if that's still a thing, but if it is, this could answer that, because somewhere out there in time, in a divergent timeline, you've got a rogue Loki. You got a Loki who escaped from the Avengers at the end of that movie now with the Tesseract. And Scarlet Witch would be the one logical to go after him with her powers and the way they work and the extent of them they haven't even explored in the MCU yet. So that would kind of make sense if that's how they're going to go with that. But, who knows if they are at this point, because they've already proven that they're willing just to drop threads and drop storylines they've left uncompleted. Captain America's ending. I liked this at first. The idea of him being able to go back in time and have that life that he lost with Agent Carter. I liked it at first. And part of me still likes it. Part of me likes that Cap gets that. On the other hand, I feel like it's kind of a betrayal of his character progression and story arc, because so much of his character progression has been about realizing that the past is gone. I can't reclaim that. But the now needs me. The now needs me, and I have to be the best I can be in the now, and I have to find my place in the now. And his whole story arc throughout the cinematic universe has been that, and it's been glorious. And then there was the setup of a possible romance burgeoning with him and Sharon Carter. I mean, that was great. That was well done in Civil War, and then on into that was wonderful. So that all just dropped now. We pretend none of that happened. We weren't really thinking all that was important now. Forget that we relied on that, guys. Now we're just going to go back to Peggy Carter. It felt like a cheat. It felt like, I love fan service. Fan service is important, but it's felt like fan service over good storytelling, I think, in the end. And I liked it at first. And like I said, part of me still likes it, but really trying to detach my emotions from it and look at it from a storytelling perspective, I think that was a mistake. I think they should have had him rather retire, settle down with Sharon, here in the present or whatever. But they didn't want to do that, and they couldn't do that, because this movie is all about getting these main heroes out of the way so that they can continue with the new diversity heroes that they want. I'll talk about that more in a second, because they're going off of all new, all different Marvel, which was a disaster in the comics. Black Widow, her ending in this film, nope. That's not an ending for her character. That is not an ending for her story arc. It's a wonderful moment in her story arc. If they plan to bring her back some way, then that's fine. But I don't know how they could bring her back, really. I mean, her sacrifice has to be permanent for the Soul Stone to have worked and for all that to happen. So I don't know how they could bring her back, honestly. But for her to sacrifice herself, it's a good ending for Tony Stark's story arc, but not for Black Widow. That doesn't really work. So I don't know what they're thinking on that. I mean, she's got the arc of dealing with her past too, realizing that she can't have children, that she has to move along with the now, but she sacrifices herself instead. It would have made much more sense for Hawkeye to sacrifice himself, being the pure heart of the Avengers, and now he's dipped into vengeance and darkness, everything, becoming the Ronin-like character. It would have made more sense for him to do it. As tragic as that would have been, it would have made more sense. But nope. We need him there so he can pass off the mantle to his daughter, because we want a girl Hawkeye now. That's going to be coming there. Black Widow has to be out of the way because she's sexy, she's feminine, and she is not at all the right representative for the third wave intersectional bullshit feminist that's taking over the universe. I don't know what's going on with the Black Widow movie then, because apparently that's still a thing, I guess. I don't know if they're going to do that as a prequel set back in time, or if they are going to bring her back some way. In the comics, they've brought Black Widow back as just a clone. The comics are ridiculous right now. The Captain America that we've known and loved throughout the decades, he truly was a sleeper Hydra agent. He truly was a Nazi Hydra agent all the time. And the guy they have now is just a newly created vision of like the dream that everybody wanted him to be. It's ridiculous. And they're trying to sort of logically wink about that and pretend that's not the case, but that's not the case. Or that is the case. So the Captain America we have is some new creation. Black Widow is just a new clone. I mean, Marvel comics have just, exploded, just shot themselves all over. That's no point in reading that junk anymore. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe feels like that too. We had to get Black Widow out of the way. We had to, if we can't kill Captain America, we got to age him up. Let's make him old. Let's make him no longer able to do anything. Get this guy out of the way so he won't have to be able to step in, and we can have our new diversity heroes. So diversity heroes. Sam Wilson has no business carrying that shield. Absolutely none. There have been these bullshit articles written. People have made all of these ridiculous arguments. None of them work. This is not the story you set up. You could have set up the story for that. You could have, but you didn't. Bucky and Cap's relationship is the whole central part of his story arc throughout this entire cinematic universe. And when Bucky at the end there just stops and says, "Oh, go ahead, Sam, you go talk to him," that was so heavy-handed. You almost saw the hand of the writers come in and say, "Nope, you stay back and you go forward because yay, diversity, Cap." That's all that was for. It disrespects Sam Wilson's tenure as the Falcon, disrespects the whole mantle of the Falcon. That's gone now. That's ridiculous. He's just a token black guy now that we want to carry the shield. That's what they've done to him. No more is this character of Sam Wilson of the Falcon respected. He's token black guy now that we want to be Captain America. So that's all he is now. We're going to have token Hawkeye in a little bit. Captain Marvel, she's, in this, she's ridiculous. She's doing her thing. The whole moment where the girl Avengers, the A-Force came up, that was, you saw like all four hands of the writers and then the hands of the directors. You saw all that heavy-handed maneuvering in there. That just didn't work. Thor still isn't worthy at the end of this film. After his wonderful battle, nope, I'm still not worthy to be king, Valkyrie, so you go ahead and do it now. So Lady Thor, a different way in the comics, but we've got Lady Thor there. There's no real future for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They might pull off a decent standalone film here and there, but I just can't muster any interest in sticking with it. I really can't. This is a utter failure of a film in terms of being the grand bookend wrap-up tie-up that it's supposed to be for the Avengers we've known and loved. It failed. It really failed. Failed that in every way. But it had some cool parts in it, and if you're an Avengers MCU fan like I am, I do recommend seeing it just to tie up what can be tied up. You're going to get pissed off, and you'll have to deal with that somehow like I have to. But this is the end. This is the end. There's no more. There's no more grand, wonderful MCU at this point. It's gone. It's gone. So yeah, we'll see with that. Where do we go from here? That's another video. This one is run incredibly long, so I apologize for that. Don't usually make these kind of long videos, but I will go ahead and end cap this one. And I do have another video in the works, which is where do we go from here? All of our franchises are falling by the wayside. What do we do? What do we do, those of us who still love certain characters, certain genres, certain archetypes? Where do we go for good, decent storytelling? So that'll be another video next. But yeah, that's all for now. Sorry for running so long. Thanks for watching it. If you got to this point. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper to the hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.